Just to say that there is a requirement through the ScotWind process for developers to identify where they will be making supply chain commitments, where investment will land, and we have defined the geographical regions for that: Scotland, the rest of the UK, the rest of Europe, and the rest of the world. So developers will be required to submit that information to us in a credible way, and that will form part of the ongoing process of leasing. What we cannot do for state aid reasons is to require any certain proportion of that commitment to be made for Scotland. But we have worked hard to create a context and an opportunity for developers to make a commitment to the Scottish supply chain, to demonstrate how they can work in collaboration, including through the Scottish Offshore Wind Energy Council, to achieve those ambitions of the offshore wind sector deal, and to play their part in helping to develop a successful supply chain in Scotland, which will be needed if we're going to reach these incredible ambitions for offshore wind and for net zero. On the point of legal enforcement, it will be a legal contract and is designed to be legally enforceable either through financial remedy or ultimately termination. In relation to the moratorium, the bid process is live at the moment, and developers are actively working up their bids. The bid process is not yet concluded, and until that process is concluded, then theoretically the process could be halted, but there may well be legal challenge, and that level of challenge would increase as we move through the stages of the leasing process.
But it is important, you've stated that it cannot be a material consideration when awarding these licences as to whether or not they're going to do any work in Scotland. So if a company comes forward and basically is going to award their contracts to the Middle East, to countries where there's low labour costs, there is state intervention, there's state subsidies and state aid being given, there is nothing you can do about that. That's what you're saying, because you're saying it's not a material consideration. So basically, I'm right in saying that we are in the hands of the goodwill of these developers to actually give us some of the crumbs.
Yeah, as I've indicated, it would be.
That's what material consideration means, surely. You cannot take into account whether the supply chain in Scotland is going to get any advantage from these contracts. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
I'll finish at that, Convener. I think what we need to do is get the legal advice in terms of a moratorium, because what we need is a moratorium on these contracts till such times as we can sort out how Scotland can be the same as Canada and other countries and actually look for the Scottish supply chain to get the jobs and benefits from this.
I think Richard Lyle wanted to come back in. Did you, Richard?
Yes, Convener. I totally agree with Alec Rowley, and I've also been beating on about this for months. Scotland is getting let down by state aid technicalities. We're getting ripped off. Most people feel we've been ripped off for far too long, and I, along with Alec Rowley, agree that something has to be done. We can't continually say, oh, it's state aid or it's this technicality or that technicality. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going to take on board what Mr. Rowley is saying? I, for one, would agree with him.